know that the biggest thing that holds people back is that little fear of just what if what if people judge me? What if I don't get it right? What if nobody listens? Then you're no better off than you are now. You haven't lost anything, but at least you had a shot. So when it comes to podcasting, the same. You can reach the most incredible people. We saw an amazing spike in views when one of the influencers that we reached out to did that ego effect thing. They shared our episode on their channel, and suddenly our whole audience just like took off. You can
Boy, Colton Havens, aka Mr. Hype. And today we have a guest with us, Mr. Walter Bayless. And we're super excited to have him. He comes from the world of podcasting and creating stories from interesting people. So it's exciting to have you here, Walt.
Hey, thanks, man. Great to be on with you.
Yeah, so for everybody watching, kind of what made you go into your podcast world? Because I know you've been crushing it the last time we spoke.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So, for me, my business was going great when I first started. When I first started podcasting, it was because my team were looking after the company and customers were flowing through, and I was literally like looking to connect with amazing people. And I thought, like, you know what? People talk about having mentors all the time. They talk about, I learned this from this guy, I learned that from this guy. And if you reach out to somebody, Fortune 500 CEO, and you say, "Hey, man, could I just spend an hour with you? I'd love to find out what you do." Dude, you got no chance. Like that guy's blocked, right? And I mean, how many requests would he have to field? But what I found was really interesting was I reached out to people on LinkedIn and I just said, "Hey, we're starting up a podcast. Love to have you on the show and give you a little bit of free exposure, talk about what you've done, some wins and losses, and find out your story." And people were like, "Yes, yes, 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 yes." And so getting in to be able to speak to incredible people with an invitation to join on a podcast opened so many doors. And from there, it's led to amazing opportunities. It's led to the ability to, man, we've had 4-star generals on the show. We've had NASA astronauts. We've had 5-time Olympians. We've had startup founders. We've had Fortune 500 CEOs, and we've had stay-at-home moms who just had an interesting story to tell. And it's been incredible, dude. Like it creates content for both you and them. It creates what I like to call the ego effect. So the ego effect is, you reach out to somebody who's got, I don't know, 100,000 followers because they're doing what they do really well, and you have an opportunity to say, "Hey," you have an opportunity to learn from that person, and then the next thing you know, they're giving you a shout out to their followers, and your audience is growing as a natural result. It's been an amazing journey, dude.
What's been the most interesting story, in your opinion, that you've had on so far?
Yeah, great question. Interestingly enough, like I reached out to this guy who was he was listed in Inc. 500, so fastest growing companies in America, and he was running a painting company. Um, and I thought, okay, cool. So I had a little LinkedIn automation thing going in the background. So I was kind of just picking people who had that Inc. 500 award, and he jumped on. And I have to say, like of all the business interviews I've done, and I've done like 250, his was the most interesting story because he literally just talked through that startup. I was a house painter. And the next day I started painting houses and need to bring someone on, need to bring someone on, need to bring someone on. Business was growing, started from my garage. And then he talked about bringing on an operations manager, and he completely changed his whole world. So now here's a painting company doing something like $400 million in revenue. And his story was just incredible, just the way he built the team. I found like him and John Spence, who was a Fortune 500 CEO, who just talked about the fact that he was too stupid to not pay attention to the books he was reading. He literally was just reading business books and just doing what it said, and he, rocketed to success. So those two stories were between the two of them just incredible growth, how to do it, how to break through.
That's amazing, dude. It's crazy how just doing what people are successful people already do seems to be the pattern of success
It's
in
crazy.
the business world. I resonate with that a lot because that's kind of where I come from as well. So for those listening, what's kind of your background? How did you get into podcasting? When was this a actual revenue stream for you from when you started before?
Yeah, great question. Uh, I came from I've been in sales, I've been in hospitality, I've done like a whole bunch of stuff in a kind of, employee career. About 15 years ago, I started out on my own. We created a couple of little software programs, grew that to be a nice, significant SaaS company. And podcasting, it kicked off, I think, 2019, 2018 we kicked off the podcast, but in terms of a revenue stream it became significant in 2019, when we were dropping out. We had 1 million views on YouTube and we were starting to really crank that up, and then we started to just get offers. We started to get sponsors. We had the audience. There was absolutely no intention of monetizing it ever. But I think the first time that we hit 10,000 downloads on an episode, I started getting people reach out and we're just like, hey, would it do you offer spots? Have you got a sponsorship package going on? And I was like, no, had never thought of it. But it quickly turned into something significant, and super grateful for that. I remember doing an interview one time, and I was talking to a guy who was who created an income stream of 100 grand a month from revenue through his YouTube channel, and he was saying that the fact when he picked up Sage UK, which is an accounting program. Sage UK paid him $50,000 a month for 2 30-second spots on his weekly show. It was like, what is going on? And he had, a subscriber base of 5.5 million, and then a view count somewhere in the 12 to 15 million per show. It's like, the businesses go where the audience is. So if you've got an audience, then your business, like the people who resonate with that audience, can be far and wide, And I interviewed a guy named Eric, the car guy, who at the time had 20 million YouTube subscribers. And Eric was getting sent a new car at least once a month from suppliers. Like, car would just rock up at his house with a little gift bow around it that says, "Hey, Eric, here's our new Honda Civic. Love for you to give it a drive." And he was saying that, like, he was literally, how can you have, a brand new car every month? But it was a gift from every one of the car companies. And, I guess the key then is, Colton, this, creating audiences on the channels. TikTok, amazing. YouTube, incredible. Instagram, fantastic. Being able to create an audience, being able to create something interesting. And people say, you know what, I want to listen to that. And then as a natural kind of byproduct of that, businesses want to be a part of it.
So everybody and their mom talks about wanting to do a podcast, thinking about a podcast. They have an idea for a podcast. They need to grow their business, so they should do a podcast. Where does someone start
Yeah.
in podcast creation?
Great question. So the first thing that you need to do is literally record a few episodes. You're going to suck at it, like we talked about last week. You gotta get past that kind of nobody's going to listen, all that kind of stuff. Just get it out there. And I started with my very first interview was with my coach at the time. I had a business coach, a guy named Tom Beal. I reached out to Tom and I said, "Okay, man, I'm like doing this podcast. Can you help me out?" And he's like, "Yeah, of course." We got on, spoke for 30 minutes. It was great. You got to get those first episodes done. You just interview a successful friend of yours, interview somebody who's doing what you do, interview the guy who you play golf with, whatever it might be, right? Just get those first few done. And then you got to get the hosting sorted. And this is where, like, you just need a few little pieces here and there. Companies like Buzzsprout make it easy, where you can just like upload your podcast and they do the rest for you. They'll help you connect with Apple. They'll help you connect with the Google store, with Spotify. So there are companies, Buzzsprout's one, and there's a whole bunch of them out there that do the same thing. But that's literally as hard as it gets. But that's not where it should stop. If you're serious about this, one of the biggest tips I can give you is set your timing at the rate you still want to be doing in 12 months from now. Because so many podcasts go like 6 weeks and die, 12 weeks and die. People start and go, "I'm going to do it, an episode every single week," and then they get 4, 5, 6 weeks into it, life takes over, and there's like this desert of 6 episode podcasts out on Spotify that, just never took off or never went anywhere. Set the cadence at the speed that you're still happy to be doing in 12 months time. Like if one a week is a good cadence for you, do it. If one a day is something exciting for you, do it. Entrepreneur on Fire with the guys out there, they're doing one a day, but they make sure that that's something that's their business. If one a month is your thing, do one a month, but set that cadence that you want to. So get your first episodes done, hook up with a platform like Buzzsprout that can do the distribution for you, and set your cadence, one that you're happy with. And the only other point that I could make to make your podcast successful, dude, get your questions on a piece of paper, learn them off by heart, and then forget about them. And I mean that genuinely. I've seen so many podcasts, I've watched and listened to so many podcasts where you can hear that the interviewer is just waiting for the interviewee to stop talking so they can ask the next question. And it's such a, like, ask a question, get an answer, ask a question, get an answer. There's no interaction there. So get your questions down, like learn them. What do you want to know from your guest? And then forget about them entirely and communicate. Have a conversation. Once you get that person on the call, listen, ask them about the answer they just give, and go deep, go as deep as you can, because that's what really makes something interesting for a listener.
Great point. I was going to just ask you, how do you know what questions to ask to get
Perfect.
stories? How do you
So
pull stories out of people?
great question. So the main thing is that you're asking for yourself primarily, right? And it's about being genuinely interested in that person and understanding, what are we trying to get? What are we trying to get from that person? What do my audience want to listen to? And 9 times out of 10, it's what you want to hear yourself, right? So if you're talking about a business podcast, you might want to know about their wins and losses. You might want to know about their struggles and their startups and their strategies. If you're talking, if you're in a sporting podcast, maybe you want to find out about their training history. If you're in a social media podcast, what's their team look like? What's their structure look like? So things that are interesting for you, and if you're starting a podcast in an area that you're interested in, then the questions are things that you want to know about. And understanding that if you want to know them, chances are good that people you resonate with are going to want to know them too. And one of the things that I love to talk about, Colton, is this kind of thought about imposter syndrome, right? So what if I ask this guy a question and it's a dumb question? What if the guy's like, "Oh my God, man, come on, seriously." Do you know what? What I found in just amazing people that have been on the show, that if you're genuinely interested, there is no dumb questions. You want to know the answer to something, that if it's close to their heart, they'll tell you. If they can't tell you, they won't talk about it. But there's never been a time, never, 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 in amazing people that I've interviewed, sorry, where somebody has responded with anything less than enthusiasm. So what are you interested in? What are the things that you would really love to know? That's what makes your best questions coming across.
Yeah, I think many of us have that imposter syndrome, even in my world. And every world, I think everybody asks, no one thinks they're good enough until they're validated from maybe an outdoor source. And the truth is, we're not good until we are.
Right.
So, I mean, you have to get moving, get started. So, I know for those that want to start a podcast, they have the question, how do I keep my podcast line full? How do I continually get guests? Or maybe if I'm doing a single person one, I don't have guests. What do you say when you're alone? And then how do you keep people showing up onto your podcast?
Yeah, great. So the most important thing is interest, right? So everybody can have a bad day. And if you're listening to Tim Ferriss, or you're listening to Entrepreneur on Fire, or you listen to any of the amazing podcasts that are out there in the world, there's going to be those favorite episodes that you've got, the ones that you put the little heart next to and you add it to your favorites list. You might listen to it more than once. But everybody has a bad day, right? So how do you keep people interested? Again, be interesting. Social media. They call it social media so that you can be social. It's not about a one-way thing. It's about being social in that space. So first of all, how do you keep your pipeline full? Ask for referrals. Best way forward. Like yourself, man, like you were an amazing guest on our podcast a little while ago, and you were referred by someone that we had on the show that was doing incredible things. And we said to them, to Rocio, So who out there is amazing? Who are you working with that you're just inspired by? And they said Colton Havens. I was like, dude, you got to hook me up with Colton Havens. So a referral led to a conversation. That's a great way to do it. But another great way to do it is, again, use social media to search the kind of people that you want to speak to. So in that example where I was talking about Fast Company, Inc. 500, it was like looking for that specific search term in LinkedIn just kept a whole screen of people in front of me. And then we use tools to automate an approach. So it's literally an automated thing that just popped out. We weren't doing thousands of approaches because the response rate is like 80%, which is crazy. So we were reaching out to people like 5 a week and just saying, hey, we've got this amazing podcast going on. Love to have you on the show. Would you be interested? And as I said, my response rate was 80%. I literally had to shut that down quickly because I was booking out like months in advance. So ask for referrals, search on social for your ideal guests. And in terms of solo stuff, use AI, man. Like if you've got a niche that you're talking to a particular group of people who are interested in a specific thing, drop into things like askthepublic.com and find out what people are searching for in that niche. So you can use Ask the Public to find out what are the biggest questions that people have asked about this particular subject in the last 30 days. Then you can take those subjects across to ChatGPT and you can say, okay, based on these questions, create for me 15 bullet points on topics that we can cover for this particular area. And again, if you need more research, go deeper. But if you're an expert in that field already, you know what people are looking for. You can get the bullet points of what to talk about, and then you can work your way through that in an interesting way that keeps people engaged.
Yeah, it's it sounds so simple. Why don't most people do that?
100% know the answer. The answer 100% is fear. 100% is fear, right? People say things like, I'd like to start a podcast, but I'm too busy, right? Or they might say, I just don't, I'm not, I don't know what to say. I don't come across that well. I hate my voice. All of this kind of stuff. 100% without a question or a doubt, the reason those things pop up is fear. And the great news is you right now, guys, you're listening to this content, right? It doesn't matter whether it's one person or 100, people will listen. And your first episodes will get zero traction. Like you just got to get them up there so that you've got a bit of history on your channel. But it's, again, it comes back to that imposter syndrome, right? And I did a talk on this a little while ago. If you're standing on a stage and you have an audience full of the best people in your industry, like the top of the game, no matter what your industry is, doesn't matter if you're a teacher or a martial artist or a podcaster or a marketer or a whatever. If you're on stage and you're talking to a room full of the people who are at the top of their game, ain't no way you're going to come off that stage without sweating. You're going to have fumble over your words. You're just not even going to be able to talk because these guys are the top of their game. What could I possibly tell them? And now switch the audience. Now you're about to walk on stage or you're about to do an interview or a podcast or a video. And the people listening, it's the first day they've ever come across this niche. So if you're a martial artist, it's day one. They've never walked into a gym or a dojo before. If you're a marketer, they don't even know what Instagram is. These are brand new people. They're school kids, all right? If you think now my audience are my day one people, then, man, I can talk to that audience all day, right? Imposter syndrome kicks in when you feel like the people are going to be judging you. And here's the rule. The people who are already above you in whatever niche that you're in, whatever vertical you specialize in, the people who have already done that, who have forged that path, they won't listen to you. And that's okay. They don't need to, right? They'll give you a pat on the back and commend your ability to get into the space, but they won't listen to you. That's great. The people that will listen to you are the ones that you can teach, the ones that are steps behind you. So imposter syndrome exists when you're looking at that audience that are already in front of you. I can't teach them anything. No, you can't. You can learn from them. But when you teach, you're teaching the people that are coming behind you on the path. So the great thing is the only students or the only audience you'll generate are the ones that really want to hear your message. The ones that are already past you, they'll be listening to other material and you're learning from them. The people that are coming after you, your audience, want to hear what you've got. There is no imposter syndrome because everything that you're talking about and creating, you're one step ahead of your audience and they want to hear what the people in front of them are talking about.
Yep. I think that goes hand in hand with video creation as well. It's the same
100%.
exact starting points. The technicality of it becomes really simple to do once it's up, and the hardest part is getting out of our own way. What's kind of equipment does someone need in order to start a podcast?
Yeah, perfect. I get asked that a lot. Basic stuff, right? So most computers these days, Zoom is free. You know, if you want to run a Zoom account, it's you can do 45-minute sessions and it's free. If you're doing voice, like just little call-based interviews, you can use your phone. You don't need to get into it. Once you start to notch up, then you got to invest in some equipment. I've got a great like Sony EV10 camera. I've got a nice, beautiful Rode podcaster mic. But it's not needed. I didn't start with that. I started with the webcam on my computer. I started with Zoom and I plugged it in. I think in a podcasting space, like audio is everything, right? You got to make sure that the audio is clear. So after your first episodes, let's say 10, 15, 20, if this is something you want to do, I can see a future in it. Invest in a great mic. And you don't have to spend a lot of money to do that. Like my first podcaster mic was a Samsung um, tiny little lapel mic, and it was brilliant. Did me for the first, I think, 50, 60 episodes. So if you don't need any fancy equipment to get started, let me do that. Turn on Zoom, you got everything you need. But once you've done it a little while, if you want to notch up, you know, there's some really great equipment out there and it's built for it. Again, like the podcaster mics, I had a Blue Yeti for ages. The Rode was about $160. The EV10 was expensive, it was about 500 and something. But you don't need to go to that level to get started. Literally, you just need Zoom. Turn your camera on and get started.
Yep. I say the same thing with video, bro. You already have all the equipment you need is your cell phone. You basically can do that cell phone and laptop. You got both of those things. You pretty much can reach the world if you do the work,
100%. That
right?
is 100% right. Like the biggest thing that you need is right there inside you. It's that heart and that courage to just turn it on and have a go. And nothing in this world is permanent, right? So have a go. Did you like it? Great, do it more. Did you hate it? Okay, cool. Turn it off. Don't do it again. Or change the channel, change the way you come across. Like with video content, you and I both know that the biggest thing that holds people back is that little fear of just what if, what if people judge me? What if I don't get it right? What if nobody listens? Then you're no better off than you are now. You haven't lost anything, but at least you had a shot. So when it comes to podcasting, the same. You can reach the most incredible people. We saw an amazing spike in views when one of the influencers that we reached out to did that ego effect thing. They shared our episode on their channel, and suddenly our whole audience just like took off. You can reach people that there's no way you'd get an hour with them, but by introducing them to your audience, by getting them exposure, by creating opportunity for them, putting them on a podcast, man, the people you can reach is just insane.
Yeah, dude. Well, creating an audience in general is the solution to like 99% of most people's problems.
Right.
It's really if you can build an audience of people that know, like, and trust you in any media, whatever style you want, you basically will solve 99% of your problems. Mostly money problems and the creative problems and the am I making a difference? All of those meanings that we have as humans and those driving forces that we don't get from our 9 to 5 or feel like we've lost for doing work for other people or whatever situation that person's in. Where can somebody get and learn more about you and watch your podcasts and your stories? Where do they go?
Thanks, man. That's yeah. So waltbayliss.com is my main site. I've got all of our episodes up there. Check me out on socials as well. It's always it's Walt.Bayliss on Instagram. It's Walt Bayliss on TikTok. The same on Facebook, Walt Bayliss. You'll find me there. We talk about business. Predominantly, it's about creating opportunity. It's about entrepreneurial stuff. It's about getting out of your own way, trying new things, creating new revenue streams, creating income, setting goals, doing all that kind of stuff. So my main goal with putting all of this content out there is to make a difference in people's lives. I think there was a moment for me, Colton, maybe 10 or 12 years ago. I was in my own entrepreneurial journey and happened to be walking across a bridge that was going across a motorway. And I paused there for a moment and just watched all these thousands of cars going underneath, in both ways. And what blew me away and what scared me was that the vacant gaze of most people behind the wheel, right? They're on the motorway, they're going to work, they're driving 40, 45 minutes in the commute, they're getting stuck in traffic and they're just like glazed. Then they're letting that life just drip away one traffic jam at a time without really understanding or knowing that when they get to the end of the week, wow, where did the week go? Where did the month go? My God, I'm 40 and I don't even know where my life is at. I think now my message is about turning on that light, making sure you go, you know what, you're in charge of your own day. You can make your own choices. You can do whatever it is you want to do, whether that is working for someone else, just being a best at that, whether it's being a parent, making that choice, whether it's jumping off mountaintops, creating business, whatever it is that you want to do, it's your choice. And the reason we put out the content that we do is just literally so people can listen to that and maybe turn on a light, maybe go, wow, I can do that. That's something that's possible. There's another opportunity. There's another avenue that I hadn't thought of before. And yeah, hopefully, if you come on across, let us know, say hi, and yeah, hopefully we can send some love your way.
Excellent. Excellent. So go check out Walt's podcast. I'm going to put the links down below the video here so you guys can make it easy. And you go check out his stuff, especially if you want to do some side income, learn how to make money, and you're in the entrepreneur world. Thank you so much for being a guest, my friend. And your hospitality is above all. So I really appreciate you and glad to
Love you,
connect.
man. Thank you for doing what you do, Colton. I love what you're doing and helping people with getting their messages out as well, man. A real pleasure.
Likewise. Till next time. Peace.